Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am Christy VANN with VANNtastic Finances, and on this channel I teach velocity banking. So I was working with a client today and he was asking me what I would do if I were in his situation. Now the problem is he cannot currently get a line of credit. His credit score is under 600, so that makes it kind of tough to get a line of credit. But I was showing him some things that he may be able to do until he builds his credit score up enough to get a line of credit. Now in my mind, he doesn't have a lot of debt and he has a lot of cash flow. So with the cash flow, we're going to kind of work down these debts until he is able to build up that credit score to get a line of credit and then start building up to where he can eventually buy a home. So if you notice, he has several credit cards and they all have very small balances, and he has a firm account which could easily be knocked off with his first paycheck. He has an IRS bill that he will have to deal with later because it is just too large for him to do anything but make payments at this time. But it won't take him long until he is able to get into a 0% credit card, maybe pay that off, or get a line of credit, pull it into the line and start letting his income work down this balance. He also has a small car balance due. Now each paycheck he gets $2,557, so I showed it here. He's paid bi-weekly. So he gets a total of $5,114 every month for income. That's excellent considering no more debt than he's got. His total living expenses are $2,015 a month, and the debt payments that he makes totals $1,135 for a total overall expense of $3,150, leaving him with $1,964 per month in cash flow. That's pretty good. So he asked for my opinion as to what would I do if I were in his situation until he gets his credit score built up. I told him that if I were in his situation, I would be making more than just these monthly payments that's due on these credit cards. Credit cards seem to be the #1 way to build your credit. So if you have credit card balances that are sitting close to the limits, then you're probably going to see a low credit score. Now this card is close to its limit, as is this one. So these other ones are very small. So they all could be affecting what his credit score is currently. So I would make multiple payments throughout the month, meaning that if he were to take the credit card and put the credit card expenses that total $1,165 onto one of his cards, and let's say credit card number 1, so that means $1,165 of his living expenses can actually be charged on a credit card. So in the event he wants to put the $1,165 onto this credit card number 1, it will not only pay the balance down on this credit card to hit it like that, but it will also give him room in this credit card to charge his expenses back up through the month. Now remember, during this time, 2024, credit card companies are cutting limits on cards. So that being said, I would make multiple payments throughout the month. So I would take $20 a day and put on this card maybe until I met that $1,165. He could go to the grocery store and buy $50 worth of items today and then put $50 back into this credit card tomorrow. However it is that he would like to do it. But if he chose to take the whole $1,165 and put into this card, he could do that as well. So this amount would cover his expenses for the month. So what does putting the expenses into this card do to the credit card payment due on this credit card? Well, that $73 would be satisfied. So that would become cash flow, meaning that this $1,135 that he has in debt payments would be reduced. So he would only have $1,062 due in debt payments every month. So that being said, this balance would then come down as well to $978. Now that's going to look good to this credit card company, right? Because he's reducing the balance. Of course, this $1,165 would come back out throughout the month, but he has $1,964 in cash flow. So he could choose to take $500 of this, put into this card as well, or he could take the whole $978 and put into this card. It all depends on what he decides to do, but either way he's going to win. So that would mean his balance would be $478 if he chose to make another income deposit, bringing this balance down. So when his expenses would come back out, he would have an extra $500 sitting on this balance. So this is going to look really good to the credit card company. Another thing I would probably do in his situation, I would take the amounts needed here and I would pay off these 3 affirmed accounts. So these 3 total $1,261. So if he paid off Affirm, totaling $1,261 plus the $500 that he put in here, he's at $1,761 that he's used of his cash flow, right? So he still has enough money to put additional monies onto one of the credit cards. Now this is just one check. Remember, he gets 2 checks in the month. So after he does this, then his next check would all go towards the debt that he already has set up to pay, which would probably be these multiple credit card payments that would be due. But remember, because he paid off Affirm number 1, Affirm number 2, and Affirm number 3, he has gained this cash flow per month. So $149 can be added to the cash flow that he already had, meaning $2,113 is now his new cash flow. So just doing these little things to kind of move his money around is actually going to gain him more cash flow to where he is now actually having more money to pay off more debt with in the next month. Now remember, this $73 is going to be available too, so he's gained even more. He would be at $2,186 in cash flow. So he would finish out the month as he's already planned to do. He has now eliminated some debt. He has used his expenses to actually bring down this card balance, whereas now this account balance is going to be so much lower to where maybe in the next month he can pay off credit card 3, 4, and 5 and apply most of his cash flow to this card to work it off as well. So within just a couple or 3 months, he's going to be sitting pretty because he's going to have all of this stuff paid down or off within a couple of months just by watching to see where his money goes. I believe that's where the worksheet helps the most. If you can lay out all of your debts, see exactly what it is that you owe and how much you pay every month, especially in your living expenses, really get to the nitty-gritty about what it is that you are spending every month and see if you can cut some corners that maybe you weren't even aware the money was going to in a month. We have to know where our money is going so that we will know what's happening to it. It's just slipping through our fingers and we need that to stop. But as soon as this guy gets into a line of credit after his credit score zooms up here in just a couple of months, he's going to be able to take care of this IRS debt. And to me, he needs to get rid of that as soon as possible because they are eating him up in penalties and fees. I hope that this kind of made sense to you as to how to divide out your money throughout the week. That just because you're paid bi-weekly or weekly doesn't mean that you can't do velocity banking. You just have to divide your expenses up a little bit better. I know that that gets a little bit tedious because I too was paid weekly, so I had to learn how to divide out my expenses until I got that line of credit. Once you're living in a personal line of credit, you no longer have to do that. You just put your income in as it comes in, and then your expenses come out throughout the month on their due dates. Total peace. A better way to live. I hope you find it. I know you will. Keep working towards it. Keep building your credit scores and doing your best, and you will see it all come clear to you in just a couple of months. Thank you so much for watching today. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.